Hi everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. Today, I decided to do one of my life series, mainly because, like I said, not a lot has changed as far as homeschool and our autism story. I'm still trying to figure things out as far as getting him in the playroom and his volunteers because COVID-19 is still a thing. And so I figured, you know what, a friend of mine, or an acquaintance of mine, I should say, she's just been on Facebook talking about her having to take her daughter in to the hospital, and it just reminded me, the daughter's okay and everything's fine, but it reminded me of the time that I had to do that with Darrion. And it had not a thing to do with his autism, really. It was more of yeah, just things happen as a parent. And I often joke about how I would gladly stay pregnant another month if they came with a manual. One that said, this is going to happen, but don't worry, they'll be okay. This is going to happen in the terms of autism, which is a huge one. I would love to go, okay, all of these things that require faith and trust and love and all of those things, if it was spelled out and said, you know what, you're going to worry about his future, don't worry. You're going to worry if he can live on his own or if he'll get married or all of these other things that parents often wonder, even down to, is he going to be able to ride a bike by himself? Little things all the way to the big things. If there came a manual that said, don't worry, it'll be okay, I would gladly stay pregnant for an extra month. So for me, that's been a big thing where looking back and seeing myself in that moment of, you know, what I'm going to tell you about, you know, I can look back at it with distance now and see the wonderful things that came from it. But in the moment, not so much fun. So story time is, we were up north following my husband's cooking career, which he no longer is doing. But we we went up there, and we're pretty much by ourselves. We didn't have any family close by, and it was okay. Like, we had some friends and stuff like that, but not friends that we could just call and say, drop our kids off or anything like that. So this was when my son was probably about 3.5, 4, I want to say, because I was big and pregnant with Sienna, probably almost 8.5 months pregnant with a planned C-section. It was just crazy. And I had the kids downstairs for quiet time, and Darrion used to do this thing where, you know how if you paint oil walls with acrylic, the acrylic just peels off. Well, Darrion had figured out, so most of his quiet time was just spent peeling the walls in that apartment. But it was a 2-story thing, so the kids' bedrooms were downstairs, and then we were in the adult room was in the upper level next to the dining room or the living room and kitchen. And so I went down to go get them, and Nara was probably about a year, yeah, so about almost 19 months, something like that. And she was in that really, like, I want to climb the stairs by myself and stuff like that. So Darrion had gone ahead, and I was walking behind the toddler, making sure that Anara didn't fall. And I heard this bump upstairs, but I don't think anything of it. And I come around the corner, and Darrion is flat on his back. And I, kind of, oh, silly buddy, what are you doing on the floor? And realize that he's not moving. What we think he did is that there was a teddy bear or something that the kids had put on our bar height chairs, because we have a bar height table, and went to reach for his juice cup, and he had gotten up there, but he fell back, and somehow I have no idea how this happened, and neither did the doctors, as I will share later. But he fell back just right so that he bonked his head, just so that we kind of liken it to, when your computer shuts down and reboots. Kind of somehow his brain shut down and it had to be rebooted. And as a parent, your brain goes into kind of fight or flight panic mode where you're sitting there going, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And I go down and like Nara's doing who knows what at this point, but she's in the kitchen, so it's all good. And I had the gate closed, so that was okay. The baby wasn't going to fall. And I'm looking at my son, and he was actually seized or tensed or whatever. And so I'm trying to, and I realize he's not breathing. He's not breathing, and I'm trying to clear his airway, but his teeth are seized and his lips are blue. And I start doing that, oh God, oh God, oh God, please, 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 please. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And I call 911. In that, really panicked, like every word needs like a breath for you to say. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. He fell off of the chair, and now I can't clear his airway. I can't, and you're giving them all the information, and it is a big blur. But I suddenly, in a not too long, I have 4 EMT in plain clothes, because it's a fairly small town, so they're volunteer based, and they come in and they look at Darrion and they're like, yeah, I think while I was on the phone with 911, he had started breathing on his own, but to the point where his lips were blue, and I've got him in the recovery position, which they told me to do, and stuff like that. And so he's not like vomiting or anything like that. But he's enough that mommy is like noticing, like, he's not breathing, and I can't breathe for him because I can't clear his airway, and roar. And so when the EMTs come, I think by that point he had just miraculously started breathing. And yeah, no idea, but he was completely out of it, like not responsive, not his usual self at all. Eyes were closed, the whole 9 yards. And so I'm on the phone still with 911. I'm like, they're here. Can you call my husband? Because this happened on a Sunday night. My husband was working in the next town over in McLennan, and that's where the hospital was. And I just assumed, because it was around time when he would be coming home or closing the kitchen, I was trying to say, can you please tell them, or phone him, this is his number, phone him to tell him to meet us at the McLennan Hospital. I just assumed that that's where we were going. And like, I have no idea why I thought this, or like even if my brain was processing things, but I just kind of thought, well, I don't drive, I don't have a car, but they're going to take me. I'm the mom. I'm going to be in the ambulance with them, and I'm of course going to be able to take my 1.5-year-old. Like, it's so funny how your brain just goes, this is just the way it's going to be. Anyway, so the 911 operator phones my husband, and he's already on his way home, and he's like, well, I'm 2 minutes away, I will be there, and we'll sort it out later. So all 4 EMTs are still in my kitchen assessing the situation and dealing with it when my husband, Colin, comes up the stairs. And I just do one of these things where I take Nara and I just hand him over the heads of all of these people, because this kitchen, by the way, is tiny. Like, the amount of people that were in there, it's amazing. And so I just kind of hand her off to Colin, and I don't say anything. I just, like, I don't have time. I'm focused on my son, focused on the people around us. And so they put him to a stretcher, and the ambulance from McLennan actually arrived. That was the next part of the story. So they come, and they've got the stretcher and everything, and they had been walkie-talkie back and forth for quite some time, and nothing that I can even remember. Yeah, there's nothing there. But they had been talking for a while, and so then I went in the ambulance with Darrion, and they're driving away, and I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember if I ended up calling Colin to let him know that we weren't going to McLennan, but we were being airlifted. So in between these two towns, there was like this really small airstrip where the STARS ambulance could land, and then they would airlift us to Grand Prairie, which is how it turned out. And I think no, it was at the house, because they kind of looked at me in my 8.5-month state, and I said, if there's a way, please let me go with him. And I think they were like, if we leave this woman, we'll be back for her. Because I told them I need to have C-sections, and like, I'm not leaving this child. Like, I'm not leaving this boy that just had this huge freaky episode in front of me. Anyway, so we're driving in the ambulance to the thing, to the airstrip, and the helicopter lands, and yay, we're airlifted out. You know, super fun, awesome time. And I get super, super motion sick in a car. And I'm 8.5 months pregnant, cannot take anything. So I'm doing this thing where I'm trying to focus on the horizon. I am trying to be calm and not freak right out, because even now talking about it, I'm getting emotional about it. And praying and praying and praying that everything with Darrion is going to be okay. Like, some of the worst things that a parent can deal with, just trying to go, what on earth happened? Why did this happen? All of the rest of it. And we didn't know that he was autistic still. Like, this was just a late talking child who, you know, who knows why. Anyway, so I don't know if I phoned, or because we had had that conversation, Colin knew we were driving, or we're going to Grand Prairie, and so he was going to meet us there. And it's always my amazement is the hospitals, they receive these kids from, I have another one of STARS Air Ambulance, and maybe I'll tell that story as well. But we get to the hospital, and they're like, where are the parents? Why aren't they here? And I'm like, your helicopter goes faster than the cars do. Like, please know that we are not just going, okay, have our children, we'll be there whenever we'll be there. So anyway, we show up, and Darrion did have difficulty in the helicopter. He got motion sick, I think, or it was a response to his brain rebooting, or whatever happened, but he ended up throwing up, and so they had to give him some the car sick medicine. My brain is broken. Anyway, they had to give him some motion sickness medicine, and it knocked him flat. Like, he was just sleeping. And so once we got there, and I'm doing this thing too, like, it's late at night, I'm big and pregnant and have to go pee so bad, but there was no time for that. And the people rushing the gurney into the hospital, I'm holding on and like almost not being able to keep my legs out from under me, because they're going so fast, and I'm trying to keep up in this big, huge body, and urination issues. And anyway, so we get in, and the doctor, again, not a really great doctor experience with this one. Our doctors up north weren't very good. I didn't enjoy them. But yeah, this one, so we go through, we do all the tests and stuff like that, and they're like, the EMTs gave their assessment and all of the rest of it, and it's just a big blur, because I am exhausted emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything. And my husband arrived with Inara, and I'm so thankful that he's there because they're asking questions and I don't know how to answer them. And we had a change in shift from one doctor who was like, I'm sure he was perfectly fine. I just don't remember a lot of what he did. And then we had a change of shift, and then we had this new doctor, and he sits down, and Darrion had like completely, once he woke up from the meds to help his tummy, he woke up just as normal as he did, kind of just like, what's going on? And why am I here? And how did I get here? And but not verbally saying any of that. And so I'm just trying to keep him, and I'm just thanking God and just praying that this isn't something that's going to last, it's not going to affect him long term. There we go. And so like I'm just sitting there going, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for taking care of him, and to the nurses and stuff like that. But this doctor comes in and he sits down with both of us, and he looks directly at Colin like I'm not even there. And he says, so is there anyone here to verify what your wife says happened? And even now, I'm just sitting there going, you are so lucky. So lucky. I was exhausted because I didn't even have any fight left. Except my husband's like, what do you mean exactly? And he goes, well, based on the charts that I'm reading, based on how your son is responding to all the stimuli and all of the rest of it, would I have called 911 for this incident? No, I wouldn't. Would I have called Star's ambulance? No, I wouldn't. And he goes through all of the things, and I go, I don't have Star's Air Ambulance on speed dial going on Sunday night. I think we should go for a helicopter ride. That would be awesome. And the 6 EMTs that made that decision was not me. This was not something that they saw him in the state that they saw him. They felt that he needed more care from the children's hospital or a more bigger center. I don't even know if it was a children's hospital. But yeah, like at the end of the day, this man is calling me a liar, which in some ways, God bless. That means that whatever had happened wasn't going to last or be lasting for Darrion. It wasn't going to cause him issues, all of the rest of it. So thank God for that. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, thank you for that. That was really, really impressive. I enjoyed that. Anyway, so at the end of all of that, we stayed an extra day just to make sure, which again I find really funny that we ended up staying an extra day based on how that doctor was responding to me, because clearly I'm an overreacting pregnant woman and can't know my own mind and should not be allowed near a phone. But about 2 days later, like I felt the whole time, I didn't really release any of that emotion because I was so focused on just making sure that he was okay. And then when he was okay, it felt really wrong to emotionally fall apart because I had so much to be thankful for, and Darrion was okay and everything was fine. And so about 2 days later, I think I went down for a nap. Again, still hadn't had my third baby and big and pregnant, and I was exhausted. It was a long couple of days trying to make sure that Darrion was okay. And Colin, he woke me up and I was just bawling, completely and totally bawling. And it was because I had had a dream that things didn't work out well, that Darrion did not wake up, that he did not start breathing, and he did not come back to us. And Colin, I was like, this is so stupid. Why am I doing this? And I'm trying to, like wipe it away. And he said, Jamie, your body knew you needed to deal with the emotion of it, but you weren't letting yourself because you're like, yeah, I can't. Like, I have him. He's mine. He's here. He's okay. And yeah, I've often looked back at that and thought, as a parent, you sit there and you hold your kids so tight, and you want things to turn out a certain way, and emotionally, and I find this with autism in general, no matter what is going on with your child, there's things that are always going to pop up and say, is this something that I need to worry about or deal with, or whatever. And you have to deal with that emotion, and it takes a while oftentimes, because you are so busy dealing with what you're dealing with, what's in front of you, that you don't always emotionally deal with it right when it happens. And when you do let go and you do deal with it, usually that's when you can go from just dealing to being able to look back and go, even in that moment, God was there, or even in that moment, Darrion was okay and he was moving forward, even though it was hard to see and it was hard to deal with. And so I often reflect back on that day and go, it sucked. Boy, did it suck. But at the same time, we've had littler moments along the way, when he took off in West Edmonton Mall, when he took off in a storm after a twister a week before. When he does these things, I have to remind myself that A, it's okay to feel the emotion, maybe not in that moment, but to do it later. And B, to see Darrion as not just mine. He's not. He's been given to me, but he's not mine. And I need to remember that, but also, so I don't hold on too tight, but also be really willing to accept that, you know what, it's gonna be okay. Those moments of, oh, it's gonna be okay. And when it's not, then I deal with that. And that's not something I like to think about, but that's when I deal with that, and I don't jump to that conclusion or jump to the fact that he's not going to be doing these things or that thing, because life is chaotic and life is uncertain and life is all sorts of things, and being willing to be open and willing to trust in those moments is hard, but thankfully can be done. So, story time is over. I hope you enjoyed it, because it did have a happy ending. And if you are new, thanks for listening to me ramble on about this, but I hope it gives all of the viewers, just some hope and peace in maybe some tough moments that you're facing. Also, maybe, it's just one of those things where you can be happy and praise God for the fact that my son is still alive and still with us, because it could have ended differently. So, thank you so much for watching, taking the time. I hope you're having a wonderful day and your families are healthy and safe. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week.